And welcome to the I Love CVille Show. Thank you kindly for joining us. It's a pleasure to connect with you guys through the I Love CVille Network, a network that's presented by some of the best businesses in this community. We're grateful for your viewership, for your listenership, for spending, an hour, 90 minutes every day, Monday through Friday with us on the I Love CVille program. We showcase the community and all its different personalities and moods, all its different positive storylines and concerning storylines. Charlottesville and Albemarle County and Central Virginia, much like you and I, wakes up with different mindsets, different ways it goes about life. Some days I have great days. Some days I have days that aren't so great. I say three things to my son every single day. It's to the point where he can recite them back to me while I'm saying it to him. I say, son, I love you, I'm proud of you, and be the best version of yourself every day. Those three things I say to my son, our son, every single day. I love you, I'm proud of you, and be the best version of yourself every single day. In Central Virginia and Albemarle County and Charlottesville, there are days, and they're more the majority, where Charlottesville and Central Virginia and Albemarle County I love, and I'm proud of it. And it's the best version of itself on most days in a calendar year. But lately, there's been some challenges. Have you guys noticed the abundance of shootings that have been taking place in Charlottesville? I mean, on Saturday afternoon, there were shootings in the Omni Hotel parking lot. The Omni Hotel. We're talking a $400+ a night hotel, and youth in this community are having shootouts in the parking lot to the point where cars that were parked in the Omni Hotel, they were held captive for a short period of time by police because those vehicles were a part of an active investigation. My family and I were walking on Saturday from the I Love CVille studios to Guajiros on West Main and back. We read the news of the shooting on social media. News spreads like wildfire these days. In fact, the first and second topic on today's show, the Albemarle High School principal saying teachers exaggerated in the Crozet Gazette story and article, that is spreading all over social media. The second item, which is one of the most concerning items that we're going to have to discuss on this show, maybe in the history of the network, a hazing incident with the junior varsity Albemarle High School football team a hazing incident that undoubtedly is felonious. A hazing incident where students should be held accountable not only by adults in the school and coaches in the school, but frankly, authorities, the police, prosecutors. I'll get to that story. First, this community in totality. Do I think we have problems and concerns that are specific to Charlottesville and Central Virginia? No. These problems and concerns are commonplace with all communities in our country, called in our world. The difference in 2022 versus, say, when I was a kid is we didn't have computers in our hands and ways to communicate on social media that spread information at the speed of light. When stuff happened when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, That information was siloed or compartmentalized with our respective social groups and friend groups. Word would travel as fast as the spoken word could go. Now, in 2022, stories and mishaps, mistreatments, hazing, felonious behavior, spin doctor tactics are spreading at the speed of hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people a second. These platforms that we spend so much time within, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat, WhatsApp, iMessage, GroupMe, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it. These platforms are publishers. They're today's version of the gossip circle. They're today's version of the water cooler conversation, of the chitter chatter in the bathroom, or the note that was passed in class from student to student. We certainly heard that on Friday's show with our guest, Mr. Bill, the retired teacher. Friday's show was one of the best shows we have ever done. Mr. Bill Mooncachi, I'm pretty sure I got that right, Bill, was dynamic. He was honest. He was frank. He was eloquent. He was passionate. He was truthful. He was genuine. He had no reason to relay anything but facts because he's no longer employed by the school system. Yesterday morning, parents at Albemarle High School woke to the weekly Albemarle High School Connect email. It's a notification from Albemarle High School principal Dara Bonham. And in this weekly email that's sent to parents, it's a way for Principal Bonham to connect with students and parents and pass along a glimpse of what the week ahead has in store. I love this kind of communication. I love communication that disseminates information, that gives folks tied to the disseminator an idea or some insight into what to expect. One of our businesses is an advertising agency, and what we do for our clients, 107 of them as of this morning, we manage their brand because we know brand awareness, when done strategically, can lead to new customers and more revenue. The similar tactics are utilized with public relations and/or crisis management and/or managing the brands of public institutions or jurisdictions. Good examples of this are the communication that, say, Nakia Walker was doing when she was in office as mayor. Like her, dislike her, she did a phenomenal job of communicating with constituents through her social media. Lloyd Snook has done a good job of doing this. I think Donna Price has done a good job of doing this. Michael Payne and Sally Hudson, elected officials, have done good jobs of doing this. Let's take the private sector. What are some of the businesses that do a good job of this? Well, I think one of our clients, Scott Wagner Integrated Medicine does a heck of a job. Interstate Service Company does a heck of a job. Patty Zeller at Animal Connection has done a heck of a job. What are some of the folks that could be doing this better? I think there are times that the University of Virginia could do communications and PR and crisis management better. And frankly, right now, I think we have a crisis management problem within the Albemarle County public school system. We have so many storylines that are out there in the news cycle, whether it's rebranding, whether it's the Crozet Gazette article from Lisa Martin, whether it's the principal of Albemarle High School calling the Crozet Gazette article from Lisa Martin as exaggerated. More on that in moments. Whether it's this news storyline that involves the Albemarle High School junior varsity football team and a hazing incident. A hazing incident that goes far beyond calling people names, far beyond the hazing that may be doing push-ups or running, far behind the hazing of roughhousing, far behind the hazing of taking an athlete's clothes and throwing them somewhere. The type of hazing that took place with this junior varsity football team at Albemarle High School is the type of hazing that you hear about on the police scanner. The type of hazing where you ask yourself if it's sexually predatory, and the type of hazing, because like everything in 2022 is recorded on phones and then disseminated all over social media, where so many folks can be there in real time even if they're not in the locker room, the type of hazing that can damage a young man for the rest of his life. Albemarle County Public Schools have a crisis on their hands. And it's a bus driver crisis. We have a shortage of drivers and kids can't get to school on time. They can't get home on time, and some are spending 4 hours on a bus every day. Albemarle County Public Schools have a PR nightmare with transgender issues. I was at the school board meeting on Thursday, this past Thursday, and I watched an Albemarle County teaching assistant speak in front of the school board and offer a first-hand take of a piece of clothing, a shirt, that she wore to school. And this shirt that she wore to school said she supports trans kids, transgender kids. She was asked by an administrator in her school to take that shirt off because it didn't fit school system policy. It was deemed political in nature. She talked about at this school board meeting, and her words, they're her words, it's documented on the record. She said that she was queer and that she had a non-binary trans partner. And while offering her firsthand perspective to the school board, the challenges that she undoubtedly has faced as a woman, she started getting emotional. And the commentary that I'm relaying to you is not about pro-trans, anti-trans. That's a topic for another day. The commentary I'm relaying to you highlights how many layers of the PR crisis onion are present within ACPS. The school board refused to approve raises for bus drivers, despite Charlottesville City starting its drivers at $21 an hour, despite Charlottesville City identifying since it raised the bus driver pay to $21 an hour, it's gotten more bus drivers. The school system right next to Charlottesville City Schools, Albemarle County Public Schools, its leadership, its school board members, chose not this past Thursday to raise the pay to $21 to match their neighbors. Will they get new bus drivers? Not anytime soon with short-sighted thinking like that. The transgender topic is undoubtedly dividing much of the teachers, some of the parents, and some of the students within the school system. That's your second PR nightmare. The third issue you have is performance. I've highlighted on this show SOL results. I've highlighted on this show SOL results as it applies to children of color, African Americans and Hispanics, and performance. Dr. Meg Bryce highlighted on this show concerning metrics when it came to SOL results at ACPS. And Kelly Jackson the very next day did the same thing. She highlighted graduation rates and accreditation issues. Then on Friday, the icing on the cake was Mr. Bill Munkachi, a 12-year veteran of public schools who, if you didn't have a chance to watch Friday's show, I would encourage you to go to ilovecville.com today and watch it. It is some of the best piece of firsthand, in the trenches perspective that you will ever hear and watch in your life. On Friday morning, the principal at Albemarle High School told parents, and I'm going to read it verbatim from the email sent to parents. More than 24 parents have forwarded this email to me. People ask this question all the time. Jerry, why do you get all this stuff? Why do you hear from all these parents and all these teachers? Why do they send you all this off-the-record intelligence, intel? How do you know what's going on with the hazing incident with the junior varsity football team at Albemarle High School? A hazing incident that is predatory sexually in nature, a hazing incident that undoubtedly was disseminated all over social media, further humiliating the JV football player. A hazing incident that should be pursued by the police from an actionability, accountability, and authority standpoint, something that undoubtedly should be prosecuted by friend of the program, Jim Hingley's office. Taking a young man, pinning him down, and utilizing third-party objects from a penetration standpoint is deplorable. What's even more deplorable is filming it and sharing it with the world. Immediately what comes to my mind is sexual violence. Immediately what comes to my mind is just thinking about my kid. Just thinking about my kid. Our kid. This is someone's son. This is someone's son. The really awesome thing about the internet And the really terrible thing about the internet is it lives forever on the internet. And can you imagine being 14, 15 years old and something like this being shared with everybody? It's disgusting. The locker rooms that I grew up in, and I played sports year-round, and I'm an alpha male, one that's loud, prone to mischief, certainly as a kid. One, when my head was on correct, was a leader of the team, captain. Been in a lot of locker rooms. And I've never seen I'm choosing the words carefully here, right? Object penetration.
I mean, I don't even know if we should be going into details.
That's fair. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think
Just leave it at that, right?
the details that we've heard are just beyond disturbing. And if I were a parent, I wouldn't want my kids in the same city as those kids, much less the same school. If there's not jail time, I mean, I don't always advocate for kids being treated as adults in legal matters, but in this case, if there's no jail time, there's a serious travesty of justice. It was just horrendous. I can't even.
And then having it disseminate all over social for others who aren't in the locker room to see?
I mean, that's just
even worse.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to say. It's just horrible.
that even like sniffs the category of like child pornography.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even go there, but the fact that
I mean, the police are actively involved in the investigation. I'm very curious of why the locker rooms that I've been a part of, there's a coach in the locker room. And I'm not throwing shade on coaches. I don't expect a coach to be able to see every single damn thing all at every single time. But the coaches that were part of my teams, soccer and baseball and track and field, all these damn teams,
yeah,
they knew the place where tomfoolery, shenanigans, or unsupervised behavior that led to trouble was the locker room.
Yeah. I mean,
I want to throw this to you, okay? Like, as a dad and as a parent, you get this, like, I have this different perspective than before our son was born. Like, before our son was born, I was quick and eager to say, let's throw the book at everything from a juvenile standpoint. That was trouble. Then as a dad and as a parent, I'm like, kids make mistakes. They screw up.
yeah.
And when they're 13, 14, 15, 16, maybe they should be given other chances. But there's a level of severity.
Yeah, I normally would tend to agree, but this goes beyond kids messing around.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, if there was even a whisper of a chance that any one of them could do something like this again, I don't even want to think about it. The fact that they did it once is bad enough.
And the really concerning thing, this is the concerning thing. This happened in the middle of last week. This happened last week. On Sunday morning, the principal sends an email to parents. I'm looking at the email verbatim. Nearly more than 2 dozen would be 24. Nearly 24 parents, less than 24, more than 12. I think it was 14 different parents send me the email from the principal of the school that, and I'm going to read the paragraph verbatim. Some of you may be aware of a recent article in the Crozet Gazette by Lisa Martin, an article that was based upon comments from a few former and present teachers at her school. The article reflected negatively on our school and our school climate. It was based upon the reviews on the views of a few teachers and former teachers who disagree with division policies and who exaggerated issues about our school. This is what I don't understand. Like, either this is like one of the most out-of-touch emails that I've ever seen. Did you guys see the email that was circulating over the weekend on our president, Joe Biden? He was in like an ice cream shop and he was eating ice cream. Did you see it?
Yeah, I think I saw. He basically was saying that the rest of the world is effed, but America's doing okay.
Yeah. The president of the United States over the weekend is in an ice cream shop eating ice cream. He's slurring his words. He's eating ice cream, and he's basically saying inflation's not impacting America. The dollar is fine. Our economy is strong. While he's eating like a $12 3-scoop of ice cream with a waffle cone. Barely understandable.
And does he not realize that our dollar being fine is actively destroying the rest of the world's economy? I'm mindful of the rest of the rest of the world. I'm very mindful of the rest of the world. What I'm primarily focused on is on the United States of America. I'm primarily focused on the Commonwealth of Virginia. I'm primarily focused on Central Virginia. And I'm primarily focused on Albemarle County and the city of Charlottesville, where I live and where I work. Okay? So when the President of the United States is eating a $12 3-scoop waffle cone, slurring his words saying the U.S. economy is strong and fine, a $12 3-scoop waffle cone, it shows a level of out-of-touchness. It shows he is not in touch with the reality because the economy is not fine. The economy is not fine. Groceries are effing expensive. Gasoline is again flirting with $4. If folks do not realize a recession is on the horizon, they're not in today's real world. Okay? It's called being out of touch. I want to equate the same level of being out of touch with the commentary that was sent to parents over the weekend on Sunday morning at 8:33 in the morning by the principal of the school, saying that the circumstances in the school have been exaggerated by teachers. How do you send that email days after this hazing incident takes place in the locker room? How do you send that email Friday, Saturday, not even 48 hours after Mr. Bill comes on this show? We understand the reach and influence of this show, spending an hour with us outlining what happened. And obviously I'm passionate. I'm not like upset. Obviously I'm nowhere not upset with Judah in any regards. I'm just looking at this from as a parent's perspective, right? Yeah.
Like it's just the definition of crisis management disaster.
Yeah. I've got an image in my mind of the meme of the dog sitting in the flaming room with a cup of tea saying, "This is fine. Everything's good."
You can't spin this, Phil G. You can't spin this, Principal Bronham. You can't spin this, school board members. And you can't spin this, Superintendent Dr. Matthew Haas. You have to own it. The first rule of crisis management is owning the crisis. The second rule of crisis management is apologizing for the crisis. And the third rule of crisis management is putting an outline in place that will prevent future crises from happening. This is crisis management, literally what I do for a living. Folks say Jerry hosts the I Love CVille Show and a podcast. This is an extremely small aspect of what this company does for a living. Extremely small. It is the most visible, but in the grand scheme of this organization and what we do, the I Love CVille Network is not in the top 3 revenue streams. Crisis management, brand management, public perception and managing those things is the number one thing I do for a living. That's what we do for our clients. And if Albemarle County Public Schools was our client, I would have a conversation with the school board members, with the principal of Albemarle High School, with Dr. Matthew Haas and Philly G, and say this to them. You guys are messing this thing up, man. You're losing trust, and trust is easy and quickly to lose, but it is difficult, arduous, and long to build and reestablish. You can lose trust like that. But rebuilding the trust and getting it back takes a long, long time. And everything that is happening over the course of this semester, from the school buses to the SOL scores, to the teacher shortage, to the transgender issues, to the JV football hazing incidents, to the hoaxing where the gun threats are being called in, every step of the way, it's being fumbled and mishandled. Consultants should not be hired for SOL performance scores. Consultants should not be hired for transgender problems. Consultants should not be hired for bus driver shortages. Consultants should not be hired for teacher shortages. Consultants should not be hired for hazing incidents. Consultants should be hired for figuring out the conundrum, the mess, the shitstorm the school system is in right now. Forget the rebranding. Forget the rebranding. As I took a deep dive into ACPS, initially with the rebranding, my eyes started opening to all the other concerns that are happening. How many parents got the email on Sunday and said, "Good Lord, the principal is trying to spin the narrative away from the Crozet Gazette article in the I Love CVille Show"? That's what I saw. Crisis management. You own the problem. First step. Crisis management. You apologize for the problem. Second step. Crisis management. You put a plan in place that prevents the crisis from happening again. The 3 steps of crisis management. What has been done of those 3? Haas owned the SOL scores, but then he chose to hire a consultant to figure it out. That was what he did. I would not be surprised if the Virginia High School League, the governing body of public school athletics in the Commonwealth of Virginia, intervenes with the junior varsity football team at Albemarle High School and cancels the remainder of the season. I would not be surprised if the police, the Albemarle County Police Department, makes arrests if they have not already. I would not be surprised once these arrests do happen, if prosecution happens to the fullest extent of the law. And as Lisa Costello just said, on 15 Facebook pages this show is airing upon, it was filmed. There should be no problem identifying the perpetrators and the accomplices, which is the point you made. Christelle is watching at Lake Monticello. This was not hazing. This was assault and certainly premeditated. There needs to be swift action taken. Amen. Juan Sarmiento watching, the king of transportation. I was a high school soccer coach many years ago. I agree we can't be everywhere, but there is a concern about the ideology the coach is instilling on his players. Kevin Yancey in Waynesboro, send a swift and concrete message. Those that actually participated charged accordingly, and everyone who witnessed it as accomplices. I'm not going to go as far as saying those that witnessed this are accomplices, but I will say that anyone who participated should be charged to the fullest extent of the law. I'm also very concerned why there was not attention in the locker room by coaches and how this transpired.
I mean, I would argue that if they...
Are you on a two-shot?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would argue that if they hadn't done it when they did it, they would have found some place, some time, some other time to do it. This was... I would... I don't know, I would seriously consider charging everyone exactly the same.
Even those that witnessed?
And they didn't go and get someone?
This is the problem with this thing. This thing is a freaking hot mess. This is a big pile on a plate. Catherine Lochner was the Albemarle High School principal that sent the email. Albemarle High School. Dara Bonham. Messing up his name. God. The last 2.5 weeks, it's been the most challenging names ever, period, of the I Love CVille Network. D-A-R-A-H, the first name. Last name, B-O-N-H-A-M. I'm looking at his email. Sarah Hill Buchensky, was there any official communication to the parents of what happened? Not that I've heard. And I'm pretty in touch with everything that's happening, and I agree, SHB, there should be official communication with the parents. This is one of the worst kept secrets in Central Virginia right now. I got phone calls from moms on other JV football programs about this. And folks want to know this. How do you constantly know about what's going on in the community like you do, Jerry? You want to know why? Because my word is my bond, and I'm one of the best damn people in the world about keeping secrets and anonymity. I respect your anonymity like I respect anything in life. It's a vault. I keep it close to the chest. I'm very good at keeping anonymity. Suzanne Daly said this. Suzanne, thank you. Parents have received an email so far saying the JV football season is on hold due to an incident. So far, it's been characterized as an incident. She put it in the comment section of the I Love CVille Facebook page. Stacy Baker Patty says they hired a consultant to tell them that they needed to pay bus drivers more money. Why waste the money with the consultant when you already know the issue, she says. Amen. Kevin Higgins says this. Kevin Higgins, the king of Greenwood. What exactly does the Virginia National Guard do? I'd send them to AHS now until there's firm leadership in place. I know that it sounds extreme, but kids at Albemarle High School are in extreme danger if this kind of crime can happen. Amen. Mr. Bill on Friday talked about the stampede of students through the breezeway, where 50 to 60 students were sprinting at once in a group through the breezeway at Albemarle High School.
Yeah.
Can you imagine 60 students at one time sprinting in unison through a hallway?
I'd step to the side.
Dude, I would. Catherine Lochner described it best on Friday's show. When there's a stampede like that, you step to the side and deal with the damage later. Teachers aren't paid enough to be the, what's the guy in the bull show with the red thing?
Toreador.
The what?
Toreador.
Teachers aren't supposed to be the toreador to the bull that has 60 students stampeding through a hallway.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be police or riot cops either.
Right. Janice Boyce Trevelyan, I agree, and if you emailed it or said it on social media, are you charged with sending pornography?
I would guess that you would be. If you were
Is this
18
not
or
child
older.
pornography? It's such a, exactly. Look at this. One of the guys that I respect his opinion tremendously in this world is this man, Judah Wickhauer, because he is one of the most thought out people ever. He thinks before anything comes out of his mouth, and it's extremely well read. And he literally, that question just gave you pause.
In this case, I would have to argue intent, and I don't think they intend as disgusting as what happened, at least from what I've heard. I would still argue that this was not intended in that way. Now, if somebody else were to take it and continue spreading it around, definitely. That changes the story, but as...
Take it a step further. Okay? Take it a step further. Based on what you're saying, if the recording of what happened, right, was sent from the locker room to a group Snapchat, so you're saying the intent of what happened, recording it in the locker room and sending it to the group Snapchat, there was no intent there, so in your eyes it's not pornography. Take it a step further. Here's
I'm not
the step
a lawyer,
further.
and I don't know any of this kind of law.
We're not lawyers. We're not
but,
attorneys. Exactly. We're just talking out loud, using common sense. Okay, I'm gonna say maybe you're right on this call. We'll take it a step further. If that video was then sent from the group chat to someone who was not in the locker room, who received that video on the group chat, and then they sent the video from the group chat to other group chats, are they not doing what you're talking about?
Yeah, they are. And I might have to rethink my initial...
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think kids passing around horrible, horrible photos...
This is a video.
Videos. I don't think it reaches child pornography levels, but at the same time, considering what happened to this kid, I think everyone involved should be charged to the fullest extent that they can be. And if that means charging them with child pornography, I don't think I would have any problem with that.
Kevin Yancey on the I Love CVille group. I'm very inclined to agree with you. I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant to read your comment, Kevin, but I 100% agree with what you just said. I'm not going to read this comment on air, but I 100% agree with what you just said from the comment section of the I Love CVille Facebook group. Not the page, the I Love CVille group. I think you're on point, Kevin Yancey. You stay on the two shot so I can see it. You're staying on the two shot?
Yeah.
I'm walking it over to you. Right there. Don't you agree with that?
I would agree.
I agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to mention that?
I don't want to discuss the details of what happened. I'm just thinking about this poor kid.
Right. I'm thinking about it as if it was mine.
Not only was he... I can't imagine having someone do that to you, but then to have them spread it around to other people that you know, it's just... It goes beyond anything beyond anything that kid should ever have to deal with in his life, and he's
That's
dealing
what I'm
with
saying.
it in...
It's almost like... I'm sure the conversation is moving.
I definitely wouldn't want to look anyone that I knew in the eyes thinking that they might have seen the video.
What the hell is going on?
I don't know.
Seriously.
I mean, we've talked about.
Why is it? What is going on here?
We've heard and talked about the year plus of kids being out of school and how it may have affected their empathy, and maybe this is I pray this is the worst case of that.
That's a great take. You're saying this is the collateral damage of a year plus of quarantine.
Possibly.
No, I think that's fantastic.
This is not the only time kids have done horrible things to each other.
No doubt about it. But
So
there
I don't
seems to
know-
be I apologize for over talking. It seems to be a huge snowball of it going on now.
Possibly. And I don't know that this is connected to any of the rest of the snowball. If this was an isolated incident, if this was one kid that incited the whole thing, we just don't. I don't want the details, but somebody will figure it out and hopefully press charges. And you're right to question whether the bystanders, the people that just watched, should be charged.
And you know what, James?
And I question that too. I don't, but it's tough if you're willing to watch something like that and not immediately go sprinting to get help. I don't know.
I swear on anything that I love that I was the kid in the school that stood up, and you probably know this, to the bullying. And you see it with the talk shows that we do here, with how we go after and stand up for the little guy. Mm-hmm. My wife is the same. I swear on everything that I love that I was the person who stood up to the nastiness and the bullying and got involved and said, stop effing doing this right now. That was who I was. If there was a popular kid picking on a not popular kid, I was the one who got in the middle of it and said, stop it. And James Watson said something on the comment section here. He said, it sounds like to me there's a lot of failed parenting going on. And I'm going to be straightforward, and I'm going to look at everyone in the camera watching the program. Culpability and accountability starts at the house, at home, with mom and mom, dad and dad, mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, whatever it is, you name it. Whatever the family dynamic is, it starts at home with mom and mom, dad and dad, mom and dad, dad and mom, grandparents, multifamily generation, whatever it is, you name it. My brother and I, till we were 10 years old, till I was 10, were raised by our Cuban grandparents, Mima and Papi. And Papi ruled with an iron fist. When we stepped out of line, Papi took the belt off his waist. And when we really stepped out of line, he took the belt off his waist and hit us with the belt buckle. And I'm not by any means saying that in today's standards, because if a parent were to hit their kid with a belt or belt buckle in 2022, the kid is probably going to report them to Child Protective Services or the police, and the parent's going to get arrested. But you know what parents can do? They can take their cell phones away. They can cancel cell phone plans. They can limit freedom. And if you don't think that this thing in my hand is not a drug addiction, or as Sarah Hill Buchensky just put on the feed, kids have become desensitized to violence through video games, movies, and social media, then you're not in touch with reality. This cell phone is fentanyl. It's cocaine. It is drugs. It is a straight up addiction. The dopamine hit you get from interaction on social media, or the desensitized nature of watching violence on your phone and TikTok and YouTube or Instagram, and then saying, oh, this ain't that big of a deal. I've spent hours seeing this on the computer in my hand. It ain't a big deal to do it in real life. We have kids on Saturday afternoon at 5 p.m. doing the OK Corral shootouts in the Omni parking lot. Dude, It's not even under the cloak of darkness anymore. It's not even at midnight. It's not even limited to certain blocks or streets in the city of Charlottesville. This was in a $500 a night hotel's parking lot. A shootout happened at 5 p.m. daytime.
Yeah.
Colleen Wise Owen says this: it's not only the period of quarantine, it's the culmination of 6+ years of basest human behavior being championed and perpetrated all of the so-called adults in the room, by all the so-called adults in the room. Suzanne Daly says this: it's not official, but here's the online definition of child pornography in the United States. Definition of child pornography under federal law. Child pornography under federal law is defined as any visual depiction of sexually explicit content involving a minor, someone under 18 years of age. Visual depictions include photographs, videos, digital or computer-generated images indistinguishable from an actual minor, and images created, adapted, or modified but appear to depict an identifiable actual minor. Dude, I'm not a lawyer. I know a friend of the program, Jim Hingley, listens and watches this program. He's an honorable man. He's the top cop in Albemarle County, Jim Hingley, the Commonwealth's attorney. He is an honorable man. Honorable. I've had beers with him. He sat across from this table a handful of times, including when he was running for election. He is an honorable man. I would imagine something like this is as challenging as he would get across his desk. Kelly Jackson said, Monticello High School found out there might be a threat at school today, so the police were there before the students even arrived. And I want to bring this up. You want to hear an unpopular opinion that I'm going to bring up? On Friday, Mr. Bill, was talking about school resource officers. Mm-hmm. And he straight up said on Friday's show, go to ilovecville.com if you want to hear one of the best interviews we have ever done. Did you not think it was one of the best interviews we've ever done?
Yeah.
On Friday, he straight up said that he said the majority, his words, the majority of teachers want the school resource officers back in the school.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. He said they all want them.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to call this out. The loud, vocal, organized, small minority on Twitter that is anti-school resource officers, that is literally getting in the ear of decision makers in Albemarle and the city of Charlottesville, pulling the school resource officers out of the hallways, and you know who you are on Twitter. Call these people out, hold them accountable, and say, stop it already. Say, stop it already. Say the teachers want the school resource officers back in the schools. The communities that are in peril are dealing with negativity, with violence in the streets, want more patrols in their neighborhoods, are not asking for defunding of the police. Stop it already. Socialist Twitter, Charlottesville. Want to bet I'm going to get some heat for that?
No doubt.
Do you agree? You don't have to get in this you don't need to get in this fight if you don't want to.
No,
it's a fight that leads to collateral damage. You don't have to get in this fight if you don't want to.
No, I happen to agree. I think they're necessary.
Oh, God. Thank you, Nancy. Please send me that. Thank you very much. Since this is in a public comment section, I'll read this comment out. She says she will send me an email response from Haas in regards to school resource officers in the school. Send me all the content. Send me all the correspondence, parents. Send it all. I will respect your anonymity. You tell me, do not mention my name or keep this off the record. Respect my anonymity. You have my word as a parent and as a man. Your name will not be associated with this in any capacity. I swear on my life. And you've already seen it in months of me doing this show. You've already seen it of months of me doing it. Janice Boyce Trevelyan. She says, I have firsthand knowledge of stuff like this happening. He had a picture of his girlfriend and he sent it to a group on social media and he was charged with transmitting pornography. Please, dear God, educate your children on the dangers of phones. Please. And is it not time for us to have a wide, sweeping policy in schools that literally, when you walk into school, you have to put your phone in a box and you can't have it on you? Are we at that point? You go through metal detectors at schools to prevent not having guns. Why isn't there a detector that you go through in a school that prevents you from having a cell phone?
Yeah, I don't know.
What is more damaging potentially to a kid in the grand scheme of things? Guns or a phone? Are school shootings damaging and school shootings devastating? Absolutely. 100%. School shootings are devastating. They're damning. They're disturbing. They're disgusting. School shootings are the worst, some of the worst things you can go through as parents and as a country and as a civilization. Right? But the disturbing destruction that happens from a school shooting, thank the Lord, is much fewer and further between than the damage and destruction that comes from these damn things that I'm holding a phone in my hand.
Yeah.
Thank the Lord. Sarah Hill Buchensky, great questions. Are there going to be any walkouts, demonstrations, protesting the actions of those who perpetrated the crime in the locker room? Prayer vigils, support for the victim? How can we help? How can we show outrage? Great questions.
Yeah. I don't know. I certainly don't think
There was walkouts of school in support of transgender students. Is the same spirit going to be utilized in support of object penetration?
I don't know. I'm personally, if I was in the kid's shoes, I wouldn't want, I certainly wouldn't want
fair attention.
But I don't know.
Kevin Yancey's right. They have technology to jam up phones, use it in schools.
I don't know if that would be the best. You do have teachers and principals and other adults who have, the right to have their phone on them.
Did you hear Mr. Bill on Friday talk about the collateral damage of students with cell phones? And how they were communicating in seconds with hundreds of kids?
Yeah.
And how the word got spread about a fight, and that's why 60 kids were stampeding at once through the hallway at AHS? Because they got a snap about it?
I don't know why they let kids bring phones into school.
There's a metal detector that catches guns before they can go into schools. Why isn't there any kind of ISP detector? Or AMD, NVIDIA, Taiwan Semi, whatever the hell the name of the chips are in these phones, somehow catching them before they walk in.
I think the problem is that while nobody would have a problem with schools confiscating guns, they certainly might end up having a problem with schools confiscating, possibly $1,000 plus phones.
Why?
Because what if the kid doesn't get the phone back? What if, who knows? I'm just saying schools don't want to be held responsible for 500 kids $1,000 phones. That's a lot of responsibility. I would rather they just say, look, you can't bring the phone to school. If you bring it to school, we call your parents. They have to come pick up the phone. Because you can't just put dozens upon dozens upon dozens of phones in boxes and expect to give them back to the right kids at the end of the day and not have a major problem.
Well, then what is the solution? Teacher across the table from me on Friday saying that these are effing problematic for him as a teacher.
You make it part of the school rules that you can't bring phones to school, and when kids do, they get a call to their parents, and somebody's got to come pick up the phone because we don't want the responsibility of this phone getting lost in a box somewhere.
How's the parent going to come pick up the phone at school if the parent's working?
You've got to have a plan. You've got to have a plan You've got to have a plan that's more than just we're going to put all these in a box.
What happened to the time when we were kids and we were in schools and we brought something to school that we didn't want, we weren't supposed to have? The teacher snatched it from us and put it in her desk. Remember that?
Yeah, but you can't do that with every child in every class.
Why?
I mean, are you serious?
For fear of losing an expensive thing is what you're saying.
You're saying every day a teacher's going to take 20, 30 phones from 20 or 30 kids?
I don't have any other better solutions. I mean,
you're also making it the teacher's responsibility, which
again
places them in the role of police officer.
Fair. That's a fair counterpoint. You're basically saying we're asking teachers to do even more from a policing standpoint as opposed to educating.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
I mean,
that's why I think we should have the walkthroughs when you get there. Some kind of walkthrough. You have the gun walkthroughs with the metal detectors or whatever they're called. Are they metal detectors?
I would imagine.
I imagine, right? They're metal detectors. Do you have any weapons on you that pop up on the metal detector? Why can't there be some kind of detector that you have to walk through?
Well, a phone would set off. I imagine a phone would set off a metal detector as well.
Does the phone send off a metal detector? Kevin Yancey, does the phone set off a metal detector? Are you looking? I guess you're right. I mean, because we have to put the phones in the when we're going through an airplane situation.
Yeah.
Does the phone set off a metal detector? Is that a stupid question? Is the answer yes?
An iPhone is likely to set off a metal detector. I
Okay.
have to believe that is the same for any other modern day phone.
Carol Thorpe, call it my intuition, but if we don't see parents soon begin to show up en masse at school board meetings and board of supervisor meetings in protest of all these problems, and may likely portend a silent but steady and sizable pullout of students from ACPS. Vouchers be damned. Great comment. Great comment. I think that's happening right now. Great comment, Queen of Jack Jewett, Carol Thorpe. You want to know the really crappy thing? I was at the school board meeting last Thursday, from 6:27 p.m. to 11:02 p.m. At the end of the meeting, the last 90 minutes of the meeting, I bet you I was the only person in attendance who was not getting paid by Albemarle County Public Schools. The only one. If the school board, who is a lot of older folks, relies on the temperature and the mood and feedback from the school board meetings about what's going on in the schools, maybe they're so out of touch, they don't know this is happening.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that they're getting at these school board meetings is consultants that are paid by the system telling them stuff, perspective from the superintendent, and perspective from middle-level management that's looking to climb to upper-tier management to get paid more money so they toe the corporate line. You see what I'm saying? I was the only person at the school board meeting I would be willing to bet in the last 90 minutes of the meeting that was not tied to a payroll of ACPS. And I would bet you when the school board meeting started at 6:30 p.m., I was one of less than 25 people. I won't even say 25 people. I'll put the over-under at 20 people, and I would put $100 that it was under 20 people at the start of the meeting. Under 20 people at that meeting were not on payroll of ACPS. That means I would be willing to bet you $100 a C-note that 19 people or less in attendance at Thursday's school board meeting were not on the payroll of ACPS. And what I saw was Matt Haas puppeteering his puppets, the school board members. Then Catherine, they should do that. Catherine Lochner, I like when you watch the show, Catherine Lochner. The school board should institute a policy, the Albemarle County School Board should institute a policy that said no cell phones in schools.
Yeah.
Albemarle County School Board, you should implement a policy at your next meeting, which is October 27th. No cell phones in schools. Implement the policy. Get some balls and do it. You know what? Take it a step further. Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, or an Albemarle County individual who would like to be on the Board of Supervisors. How about you hold the money in escrow in an escrow account before you give it to the school board? The Board of Supervisors, the only power that they have over the school board, the only influence the Board of Supervisors has over Albemarle County Public Schools is the money that's given to the Albemarle County School Board every year. What if the supervisors, or a supervisor-to-be, said, here's the $250+ million. I am not going to give it to you, school board, until you take action items. You're actionable on these items. No cell phone policy 1. No cell phone policy 1. Improved performance on standardized SOL tests. Show me a plan of how you're going to improve SOLs. Show me the rebranding money clearly. I got it. In the grand scheme of things, it's compared to object penetration, rebranding is inconsequential. Mm-hmm. Is it not?
Yeah.
Okay? Supervisors say, I'm not going to give you the money. I'm going to put it in this escrow account until you give me a plan of attack on how you're going to fix these things. And I'm not going to give this money to you guys until I see a clear path for solutions and success on these things. There you go. That's how it would be done in a business world. That's how it would be done in a business world. My name is Jerry Miller. This is the I Love CVille Show on a Monday.